When the automobile is not just an automobile, when it is created at the factories of the Chrysler Corporation, such a thought comes to mind when you start examining the photographs of the brand catalogs of the Plymouth division for the 1957 to 58 model years. The predatory, sharp lines, almost malevolent front end with a characteristic cutout, the forward curved integral bumper on the 1957 model, reminiscent of a gaping maw, enormous tail fins, and a panoramic windshield. It's like the Fury fighter jet from the Korean War era of the early 50s. That's real aggression. And those modern cars that we consider aggressive look quite benign compared to the creations of Virgil Exner, the designer of the Chrysler Corporation in the 50s. Indeed, nothing else can be expected from a car named after a Korean War hero. True, the name Fury, which translates to Fury in English, was only given to one car from the division. This was a special sporty model hardtop, released in a limited series. Externally, it did not differ much from other models like the Plaza, Savoy, and especially the Belvedere. The same slightly insane style, unique front roof pillar with a typical Chrysler shape, door handles almost identical to those on the Soviet ZL, though not from a refrigerator but from a car, and elegant high fins, nicknamed shark fins, whose shape was carefully designed from an aerodynamic point of view. Only the radiator grille of the Fury was yellow, as were the badges, and even the wide side trim made of ribbed anodized aluminum, bordered by a thin chrome edge. On the 1957 model, it also extended to the green tail section. By the way, it was for this and other reasons that the Fury of the 1957 model years earned the nickname Golden Rocket. But the fun ended there. Under the hood of the 1957 model year Fury, which had a slightly different front-end design, was a specially designed V8 engine for it, whose air filters and valve covers were also painted gold. Its displacement was 5,200 cubic centimeters, producing 290 horsepower. The V8 was equipped with two carburetors, each chamber servicing its cylinder sequentially. In 1958, the displacement increased slightly to 5,700 cubic centimeters, and the power increased to 305 horsepower. The engine was renamed the Golden Commando for the occasion. For an additional fee, instead of two carburetors, the latest electronic fuel injection system of the time could be installed, which added another 10 horsepower to the already powerful engine. However, it was not very reliable and was no longer installed on Chrysler cars by the next 1959 model year. The transmission on the Fury, as befits a sports car, was manual, but for an additional fee, an automatic torque flight with a standard push-button selector on the instrument panel was provided for the particularly lazy. The maximum speed varied depending on the type of transmission and the gear ratio of the main gear within the range of 170 to 230 kilometers per hour, and the acceleration time to 96 kilometers per hour was over 9 seconds. In our time, this is no longer very impressive for a sports car, but in those years, only a very few land transport vehicles, such as Ferrari or Maserati, could move faster, and even then, not all of them. For example, for the similarly powerful but significantly lighter Ferrari 250 GTO Berlinetta of 1960, the maximum speed was 248 kilometers per hour, and the acceleration to 96 kilometers per hour took 8.2 seconds. However, for the money that had to be paid even for the cheapest Ferrari, several Plymouth Furies could be bought. The suspension was simple yet unusual. The front was on longitudinal torsion bars, the ends of which were clamped in a transverse beam, and compared to the standard Belvedere, their diameter was significantly increased. The rear was a dependent leaf spring, to which one leaf was added to give it sporty stiffness. This, of course, did not add comfort, but as reported by Motor Trend magazine, which tested the new Plymouth Fury at the time, it was possible to easily navigate sharp turns without reducing speed, without the risk of flying into a ditch or flipping over. The steering was quite sharp for such a large and not very light car, 3.5 turns from lock to lock. The main drawback of the Fury was the relatively poor anti-corrosion treatment, which over time turned into an advantage. Rust has eaten away most of the Plymouths from 1957 to 58, and now it is quite difficult to find them abandoned in junkyards. And the limited series Plymouth Fury is even harder to find. Those that have been preserved thanks to the efforts of their owners have become such a rarity that they are valued on par with, and sometimes even higher than, a Cadillac of the same model year.